You're listening to Trailblazers.fm, an interview-styled podcast that delves deep into bold conversations with successful Black entrepreneurs and leaders. Join us weekly to learn actionable strategies, valuable tactics, and innovative tools that you can put to use immediately on your journey to blazing your trail. And now, here's your host, my husband, Stephen A. Hart.
Hello and happy Friday to you. I am so excited for you guys joining us on this Friday morning. I was just saying a minute ago, TGIF. How many of our Blazer Nation community know what that means? I know I see Annette here. Good morning. Listen, TGIF, Trailblazers Grind includes Friday. If this is your first time joining one of my live streams, my name is Stephen A. Hart. I'm the host of Trailblazers.fm. This is a podcast that is going on 5+ years. We've interviewed over 200 really bold and amazing Black entrepreneurs and leaders. And our guest today is Shannon Cohen. Shannon is the founder and CEO of Shannon Cohen, Inc., a boutique firm with a mighty imprint and reputation for excellence. She's an author, a podcaster, owner of an inspirational product line called Tough Skin, Soft Heart. Her Tough Skin, Soft Heart products are available at retailers across the country. Her podcast is in its second season, reaching subscribers in 12 countries. Listen, Blazer Nation community, I want you to join me in welcoming Shannon. Shannon, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. I am just so glad to be here with you in the Blazer Nation. So
Yes. I am so excited. Listen, we start every conversation off from a place of gratitude. And so just wanting to pick your brain and hear what you're most grateful for in your life right now.
you know what? It's something that you said to me earlier. I said, okay, so Stephen thought he was having me on to talk, but you were like pouring into me this morning. You were backstage and you said you were sharing about, a difficult season that your family had gone through. And you said, I didn't quit, I shifted. And that was like a whole word this morning, because I think a lot of us are in that space. And so I find myself in a space of gratitude for all of the times that I didn't quit, right? Those back up against the wall moments where you don't know what to do, but you just tell yourself failure is not an option. And so I am really grateful for you lifting that up and speaking that into my life this morning. And it blessed me so much. So thank you.
Yes. Where are you joining us from this morning?
Yeah, I am joining you from West Michigan, from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is the second largest city in Michigan after Detroit. So I'm a Detroit girl through and through, but I fell in love and it changed my situation. And so I moved to the other side of the state. So I often say I'm bi-coastal. My roots come out of Detroit, but my family, we are headquartered on the other side of the state.
Tell me something about growing up in Detroit. Something interesting about maybe a memory growing up in the D.
Yeah, you know what? I grew up on the east side of Detroit. I am 48234 all day. And I think that, I was telling my sister the other day, long before, now we're hearing things like shop local or neighbor helping neighbor. But long before those were industry terms, I saw that modeled in my neighborhood. My grandparents were entrepreneurs. They owned an auto collision shop on the west side of the city. And they hired people that were considered to be unemployable. They specifically hired Black men from the neighborhood that had been impacted by Agent Orange as a result of serving in the Vietnam War. So I grew up, not even thinking that, all of the years I spent my summers as the unofficial intern of my grandparents' auto collision shop, that it was seeding entrepreneurship in me. I had no. So I'm really grateful for that, and how I saw them use entrepreneurship, place-based entrepreneurship, to activate community.
Mm, mm. As you said that, because many of us struggle with not having, and we're talking joy and purpose today, but many of us don't have clarity of our purpose, of our vision, right? At what point did you kind of you're touching on some of this? You had that view of representation as it relates to entrepreneurship, but was there something that you were clear on early on that you're like, this is what I want to do with my life?
It's so funny, Stephen. I've always known that encouragement was one of my superpowers.
Mm,
But encouragement is not something you can go to college and major in. And so I didn't know, how do I monetize this gift that I have of encouragement? I was that little kid that, could always see people that were visibly invisible. And so I
yes.
think that often we get glimpses of purpose. We get glimpses in our childhood, there's glimpses in our lived experiences, there's glimpses. I think sometimes what guides us towards purpose is that many of us know what it's like to live at the intersection of obligation and duty, or the
Ooh.
intersection of got to and don't want to, right? And so
Mm,
you get fed up living in those spaces. And so I think that the journey to finding yourself in that sweet spot of joy and purpose is just that. It's a journey. It is taking and pulling all of those glimpses, including the missteps, and starting to figure out, what am I created to do, and how do I align my time, my talent, my energy,
mm.
and my resources to go boldly in that direction.
Talk about energy. I sometimes hear people, Shannon, talk about joy and happiness as sort of equals, and I feel a little bit differently about it, especially in this past season I'm coming out of. Happiness is something that's more like a mood to me,
Mhm.
right? Today I might be happy, tomorrow I might be broken, but I feel like joy is more so a peaceful like state of being. It's a deeper energy, as you touched on, right? I'm filled with joy that doesn't go away as quickly, right? It's kind of like, I like you today, I might not like you tomorrow. I'm always gonna love you, right?
Right.
And that joy kind of is that deeper feeling for me. I don't know if you feel any different, like when you hear, and talk to people about joy, what that really means for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think happiness is conditional, right?
Mm,
Happiness is based on situations and the circumstances of our lives. And you're right, happiness fluctuates. I think joy is a well. It's what makes me come alive. Like you were sharing with me earlier today, you've been up to 2 a.m. grinding on a project, but
yeah.
you still have joy, right? I'm
Yes.
sure you've been grinding on projects before and you had no joy doing that, but you had a sense of joy
Yes.
because what you were giving all of these extra hours and this extra attention, this time away from your family, from sleep, to do is something that's connected to what makes you come alive. And when you do that, right, it doesn't feel like work so much.
And it don't feel like stress,
Okay.
right? If I was working for somebody else's dream at 2 a.m., I probably wouldn't have the energy to give to you this morning and to our Blazer Nation community. But what I was working on this morning, I'm going to give to the world. And it
Yes.
means so much to me. And that brings me joy. Purpose, because I love, having this dialogue before we dive in and talk even more, right? But the purpose side is about clarity for me,
Mhm.
right? Um, it's that meaning. Annette and I have been digging down this rabbit hole, um, looking at, because it's something I teach in our branding course, and I spent some time, digging into purpose and meaning, and I'd come across this Japanese concept called ikigai. Not
Mm.
sure if you've ever heard that term,
No.
and people often associate it. If you go search the term ikigai, and I'll type that in the comments, or so you can see what that term is, because It's not icky guy. um, but it is this Japanese concept, really kind of meaning, connecting to your meaning and purpose. But I stumbled across this Venn diagram that the whole world talks about is your ikigai. And it turns out it wasn't, which is crazy. The internet's kind of bringing the Western spin to, a Japanese concept. But I came to find out that this Venn diagram was intentional. It was created by an astrologist, I believe in South America, who said, hey, you know what? Let's look at the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, your superpowers, what you get paid for, and what the world needs. Right? And at the center of that Venn diagram is your purpose. And that, that becomes kind of the intersection. Now, with the Venn diagram, all four parts look equal. I think in real life, as I've been digesting this visual graphic, I think some of us are connected to something we really love, and that side of the Venn diagram could be much bigger. Maybe we don't get paid as much in some industries, but the world needs it, right? Or tribe, a portion of the world needs it. And so I've been kind of playing with this diagram, and it's something that, we're working out to, again, teach to our cohort in the course. But it's so important to me that we have clarity of our purpose in this world, especially now in the noise of life, because, so much is happening, and everywhere I turn, people are hurting. I mean, we saw the Naomi Osaka, bit this week, but I went through a year, and I've been very vocal here with our community about my own mental health issues and challenges that I'm still going through now. But and I love you, Shannon, for how you articulate your word. I just wanted to get your vibe on the whole aspect of purpose.
When I think about the things that you shared, and I think about the folks that are in the Blazer Nation, one of the things that I have found is that often, for many of us, it's funny how we can question our ability to build what we see in our hearts. But we have all of this social proof and examples, and quite honestly, receipts and battle scars where we have used our creativity, our innovation, our time, our energy, and our acumen to not only develop the blueprints for someone else's vision, institution, organization, or other folks, but to take that vision from blueprint ideation and to scaffold it and to bring it into implementation and then to, scale it. It baffles me sometimes. And I've been in those seasons where I've questioned my ability to take my own dream from good to great, but I have all of this social proof where I've done it for other people, other organizations, and other institutions. And I think that for me, that's one of the places where I find in the work that I get to do, where I'm bolstering the hearts and the minds of fellow dreamers and visionaries to say, you're not a questionable investment. You have done this for other folks. Now it's time to build what you see and to be the architect of destiny in your own situation, and to apply that same tenacity, energy, resolve, finance, focus, time to your own dream. And so I think often some of clearing out the fog and the uncertainty around purpose is just to believe and invest in our own possibility. Like we've believed and invested in other people. It's funny how even just that helps to get the red out.
Oh, I first listened to Shannon on my sister from another Mr. Minda Hearts program, and I'm just literally sitting here like, Minda, pass me the tambourine.
right. Yes. Confidence. I think that's the invisible part, like confidence, joy, and purpose, because often we know what makes us come alive. We know that more is out there. I like to say there have been some of what has helped me to find my own place at the intersection of joy and purpose. Stephen is going through seasons of what I call ambitious restlessness. And we all have navigated it. You know that place of ambitious restlessness where maybe you're in a role or you're doing some work and you are completely unfulfilled. Even if you're good at it, even if you slay, even if you have deliverables, you're not at that intersection and you can feel it. It's like our bodies are wired to give us cues and clues that we're not where we should be. And in those seasons of ambitious restlessness, we start to ask ourselves different questions. And that's what I heard as you were sharing those quadrants, like what makes me come alive, and what am I exceptional at? What am I uniquely positioned to do? What's my values proposition to the world? And then what does the world need? And how do I build at the juxtaposition of all of that? But I think courage and confidence and self-love is what propels us to move from a place of ambitious restlessness into activation.
That courage to get out your own head.
Yes.
Right? I will tell you, I have a gift to give the world. And if I'm not my own biggest enemy sometimes,
yeah.
And last night I had a dear friend check me on it. And he's like, Stephen, if you would just see what you're creating right now and just stand in the strength of that, get out your own way. And I would say that to our Blazer Nation community, get out your own way, get clear on what we're talking about, but have that courage to stand, above the imposter syndrome and all the other things that are, standing in the way. I've told this bit before, for those of you who are believers, many of us know Philippians 4:6, don't worry about anything, pray about everything, tell God what you need, thank him, for all he's done. But, we allow worry and fear and anxiety to get in the way. And verse 8 tells you, that, and we know fear, right, is false evidence appearing real. We know anxiety is a future what if that don't exist, right? And I just keep reminding myself of verse 8 where it says, fix your mind on what is true, not false. Fix your mind on what's true, right? So for those of you who are not clear on your purpose, not clear on your vision for the future, first off, it does not involve, what might get you there is having, a day job to provide income. What might get you, forward is having some financial peace of mind. But your vision, your goal for the future isn't just the money, and it isn't just that day job, right? There's so much more that I believe that God planted in each of us, right? To live out and to impact the world with those gifts and gems. And I am loving it. There's so much happening right now. But when we talked about this, and I saw kind of where you framed this for the intersection of joy and purpose, it really spoke to me. And listen, you're also an author of 2 books. And Tough Skin, Soft Hearts has become a big part of your brand, right? Did the book start first? Is the book what initiated kind of the podcast and then the product line?
A little bit before that. It actually started with the blog I started writing on maternity leave, because it's like, how do you take someone who at that time was a workaholic, and I had this new little baby, and I was like, I need more to do. Like, right, not that a newborn is not a lot to do, but sometimes when you've been in a space of being a workaholic and you get time to sit with you and your thoughts, in yourself, it can be a humbling experience. And so that's what I did as a new mom. I was sitting with myself, and I was there was a part of me that was in a season of ambitious restlessness, because I knew that the way that I was living, while I was externally, winning and successful, I was not okay with the state of my soul. And I started to write about the difficult things that I was navigating behind my title, my smile, and my role, because I know that often people who lead, love, and serve in transformational ways, their strength often renders them invisible. Because people think you're the go-to for the answer. You're the firefighter. You're the fire preventer. You're the fire starter. You're the rock in your home, in your marketplace, in your community. So where does the rock go when it's struggling? And I wanted to write. So I just started writing.
Were you sharing the writing with anybody, or you're just writing?
When I first started, I was just using, this is straight old school, I was using Constant Contact and publishing a blog.
Wow.
And I thought at the time, only my husband and my mom will read it because I'm postpartum and they got to. That's what I initially thought. And within the first year, it reached 3,000 subscribers.
Really?
And that was a sign, right? Because remember, we said purpose comes in glimpses. And I knew that I was onto something, because at that time, we weren't talking emotional intelligence. We weren't talking self-care. My son is 7. So just 7 years ago, if you go back and look at industry lexicon and what we were talking about, we weren't talking wellness at work and workplace wellness and, mindful leadership or adaptive leadership, or, we weren't talking any of that. That was kind of considered new age, and, it wasn't considered cutting edge. And so that's where it was seated, Stephen. But I knew that even as a consultant in the work that I was doing in my business, that I was every day doing work for clients that were high functioning and they were not well. High functioning in boardrooms, but broken in their souls. And I just wanted to be a part of creating balm for the people that we depend on to lead in transformational ways. I wanted to create safe spaces of psychological safety so that difference makers could lay down the mantles that they carry and be human. And so that's where it came from.
I could listen to you all day, Shannon. When you were saying that just now, tell me, when you were on maternity leave, were you still employed to corporate? Were you 100% kind of doing your own thing?
I was doing my own thing at that time. I was 100% doing my own thing. But I do think, that at that time for me, before I had my son, I ended up having a miscarriage. And I was in DC. I was about to speak at this national conference and ended up having a miscarriage. And that also seeded this work. And I think that's important to share, because sometimes it's out of our pain and our trauma that our transformations happen. And I remember being in that hospital room, and I was so concerned about having to call the conference coordinators and tell them I couldn't lead my plenary session because I'm in this hospital in Baltimore having this miscarriage, and calling my husband, and just all of those different things. And I felt like it was in that hospital room with me that the Lord got my attention. And it was this, like, how is this working for you? You are externally successful, but you are not all right. And I didn't want success at the cost of my wellness. And that's where it was seated. Now, what's crazy is I had that transformational moment. I came back, flew back home, and then I went right back to work. Right? Because sometimes it takes time for transformation to take root, because when we get afraid, we tend to divert to what's familiar. What we've always done. And so I think that, this living at the intersection of joy and purpose, it's not just about the work of our hands. It's about the state of our souls. It's about the human being behind the work. And it's a holistic approach to how we want to be and how we want to lead and how we want to show up in the world. And I don't want to show up in the world externally winning, but my family is broken, my soul is broken, right? And so, I think it's been all of that. And I'm grateful for all of the phases of living at the intersection of joy and purpose it's brought. I'm thankful for the seasons of obscurity, where those were the seasons for me to work on me. And I'm thankful for the seasons of visibility. I needed both. And I think for the folks that are in the Blazer Nation, we need both.
Listen, I don't know if y'all see me moving around in this chair. Shannon is like shining a spotlight into my experiences right in this moment in time. And, just talking about your pain, bringing about that transformation is so very real. It's so very real for me. And man, I mean, tough skin, soft heart, right? So did out of that season, there's so much you just said just now. I could spend another hour talking about the writing. Is this the product of all of what you had poured into in that time writing for the blog? Like, tell us a little bit about the book.
Yes. So the Tough Skin Soft Heart book it's 31 chapters. And it's designed for you to use them as prompts for 31 days. Now, most people say, I know you said that, but I read it all because it was so good. But each chapter ends with a tough skin and a soft heart truth, which they act as journal prompts. I've had people use them with their leadership teams to open team meetings. They're a mix of prayers. They're a mix of affirmations. But it's, the first book was designed to pour into who leaders are behind closed doors. It was a book that I wrote to talk about what leaders are navigating behind their titles, degrees, their smiles, and their roles. And how do you create spaces of psychological safety to invest in your own wellness with the same, tenacity that we invest in the work of our hands, that you're more important than the work of your hands. But my second book is called It's Normal to Shake as You Soar. And I think that soaring is an internal conversation long before it's an external manifestation. And so that book is about, the seasons of soaring, right? There's preparation, there's lift, there's turbulence, there's acceleration, right? All of those phases. And it provides wisdom, lessons, and truth to support folks along that process. And I remember when I was writing that book, like you were talking about doing some research on, Japanese ideology around purpose. Soar is an aviation term. And I started to do research around, soaring. And I learned that in the industry of aviation, there's this term that they call ditching. And, when we think about the black boxes on planes, we only think about that black box when there's been a catastrophe, right? Like a 747 has some type of catastrophe, and then they'll play back that black box so that they can hear what the conversation was that led up to that incident, that tragedy. Well, in the field of aviation, they use the black boxes all the time. They listen to the conversations because they know, and they use it to teach emerging pilots. And they use it so that whenever there is a premature landing, they can listen to the conversation that led up to those premature landings. So this term ditching in aviation is a term that they use when a pilot takes off for a particular final destination and they stop short. And ditching is this term for premature landings. And when I learned that, I said, ditching is not just an aviation term. Because your girl has ditched on some things. I have ditched on some dreams and some ideas before where I had a destination in my mind, but I stopped short. And I think it's very interesting that they understand that conversation impacts the soaring process. The internal dialogue that we have within ourselves about us, if we go back to those moments in our lives, if we play back our own highlight reels and we look at where did I ditch? Long before we prematurely landed physically, we had internal conversations where we quit on us. And so that's what that book is about. It's about there's a language to a soaring mindset. There's a conversation to soaring every single day. What we say about us, the black boxes of our hearts, will impact our trajectory more than what's going on around us.
Shannon, are these books available in audio?
Soon, I'm working on this, Stephen.
Shannon, I need to hear your voice. I need to hear this
working on it
in your voice. I encourage everybody, because I'm like ready to download an audiobook of you talking right now.
Yes, we actually are. We just finished up some work in the studio, so it's coming. It's coming because I'm just so passionate about this. I
cannot tell.
Yeah. It's like we could talk all day because I want to see us win, right? Like The world needs what's been incubating in us. And when you said something earlier, you were like, we need to get out of our own heads. And I remember writing something to myself this year. I said, here you are doubting you and other people are studying you.
Ooh.
Like, girl, get your life, right? Get it together. Like, why do we question ourselves so much? And that's Blazer Nation. Why are you questioning yourself when there are other people studying you? It's time to believe and invest in the possibility of us radically so.
I am fighting back tears right now. Let me tell you, you are speaking to my soul this morning. I am just blessed by you. And I just know so many people right now are feeling the same. Listen, I don't want to, we're through, time here, but in February of this year, you debuted a signature line of greeting cards. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So Tough Skin Soft Heart evolved into a product line. I've always, remember I told you, I'm an encourager at my soul, and I've always loved handwritten letters. So 5 years ago, I started the product portion of that. And our focus is greeting cards, but we make a few other inspirational products as well, like mugs and journals and others. And so we have a partnership with American Greetings, and our cards launched in Target in February. And then in just 2 weeks, we will launch. I know they don't have a presence yet over on the East Coast where you are, Stephen, but we will be going into Meijer's 230 Meijer stores, which is a Midwest chain, grocery retail chain. And so I'm just really excited about this opportunity. But yet it's been seeds that we've been sowing over the course of 5 years. So Target this year, Meijer in 2 weeks, and they will be carrying everything that we do. So our greeting cards, both books, the mugs that we create, our journals. It's soaring season, Stephen. I mean, it's just our time. I think many of us have been sowing in obscurity and building these visions, and it's just time. It's takeoff time.
Absolutely. So you said you're in the West, and then through Meijer's gonna end up being in the mid. Listen, Target. If whoever somebody tag Target up, tell them we need the cards and the products in every store nationwide, online. Listen, tag them up wherever you're watching this. Let them see this video. Shannon, I'm just so blessed by you. There's a million more things that I feel like, from a leadership standpoint, I could pick your brain on. And what's your word? What's your advice to leaders in this season that we're in right now? I feel like this pandemic, there are many people who think, okay, there's a vaccine out now and we're going back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself writing, and even yesterday engaging in a tweet, because we have so many Black women in general, but in the words of Dr. George Fraser, when the general population catches a cold, Black people get pneumonia, right? And I feel like women in general are impacted right now by the pandemic, and Black women are gonna have a tough time through that season, whether they are employees or they are running businesses. I've seen both sides hurt through this season. What's your word to sisters who are going through the season, who are, maybe having the idea of starting a business, but they're leading in the corporate world, but they're probably not at the point yet where they're ready to soar, but they have that purpose and they have so much more to give to the world. What would you say to them?
It takes me back before I took that leap. One of the things that I'm always saying is that you are the first angel investor your dream will ever see. And I think that is critical for us to remember. I will always say you have to believe and invest in your own possibility. And I think Black women, we come from people that, we are natural strategists. We are natural solution generators. We are firefighters. We leap buildings in single bounds. When you have a Black woman on your team, that's a Justice League, right? Like that is just what it is. And so I think that often we haven't used that same tenacity for the dreams we carry, partially because we haven't had the time. Because by the time we get to work on us or care for us, we are so wore out. We're so tired. We've given our best to everyone else. And so before I started Shannon Cohen, I remember in that space of ambitious restlessness, I remember telling myself that I was going to work 30 minutes a day on my dream, on my stuff. 30 minutes a day, because that's all I had. But at the end of the week, that's 210 minutes. That's, that's some time.
Yeah.
I said, I would also, anything I do after 10 o'clock is going to be for me. Those are the two thoughts I had that got me started. I'm going to do 30 minutes a day. And anything I do after 10 p.m., because we all know that life, you put the kids in the bed or you've done whatever, you get that laptop, you're in the bed and you're working for somebody else's vision. Any midnight oil is going to be for me, for my dreams and the aspirations of my heart. And that's where I started. The third thing I would add, and I know we got to go, that's what happens when you get with family. You just want to take your shoes off.
Listen, girl, and
right? So I'll tell this third thing really quickly.
Yeah, no.
Have a strategic planning session with yourself. For many of us, we know what it's like when our companies take those half-day retreats or in-services and, we go away somewhere and we're spending time mapping out vision. If you've done it for a company, you can do it for yourself. I believe that all of us, I don't care if it's get a hotel room, take some Post-it notes, take your wipe erase markers, and you have a strategic visioning session with yourself. Yeah. Use the quadrants that you talked about, Stephen. What makes me come alive? What am I exceptionally well? What do I do exceptionally well? What's my values proposition and what does the world need? And you do that with yourself. And then I think you also take advantage of like the courses you're teaching or, executive coaches, even people in your community to say, what do you see in me? And you start mapping and putting those pieces together. I think the vision unfolds with every progressive step we take in the direction of our dreams. It's not, we don't get the blueprint all at once, but something happens, something activates in our confidence and in our courage when we start to invest in ourselves like we've invested in other people.
Yes. What, beyond your two books, what books are you reading right now? Or you've read that you think we should probably add to the queue?
Oh, so good. Right now, I'm reading two books. I'm reading One Drop by Dr. Yaba Blay. I just love Dr. Blay. I love her work. And I think that as we are starting to ask new questions in this country around race and racial identity and racial equity, it's been such a great human-centered read for me. I really enjoy her work. I'm also reading Small Giants by Bo Burlingame. I think that speaks more to, I think we've been talking about that, Small Giants and really thinking about, structurally as a business, how do I want growth to look, right? Because all growth ain't good growth, right? So what do I want that to look like? And how do I grow in a way that still centers my wellness so that I'm not, like we said, I don't want to go back into that place I came out of external success, but the things that matter most to me not being in a state of wellness. So those are 2 books that I'm reading right now. And yeah.
As we wrap up, tell everyone in our Blazer Nation community. I had a banner rolling with your website, but just tell us where you're most active on social, that we can continue this conversation with you.
Yeah, I think these days I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn and Instagram, and then Twitter. I'm trying to catch up with you and Minda and Twitter. I am, right? I usually find that I love absorbing in Twitter, and I need to kind of probably put my voice out there more, but definitely LinkedIn and Instagram. But I would love to connect with the Blazer Nation, because I think iron sharpens iron. And I think that I always draw such strength from cross-pollinating ideas with other difference makers. I think that's how we grow and we, cooperatively and collectively advance, which is important to me.
Mm-hmm. Last question for you. What's one action our Blazer Nation going into their work day right now can take? What action can they take that's going to help them to blaze their trail?
I think that one action I would love to see the Blazer Nation take a minute with the Post-it note and write an affirmation to yourself with 6 words or less that you can post somewhere that you can see it today. Because your heart is connected to the words that you say, and what you say about yourself, that interior dialogue, impacts your ability to soar. And nobody else knows what's going on behind the veil and under the hood of our situation than us. So I would just encourage the Blazer Nation. I know that you lead, love, and serve in so many external ways that are dope, but take care of yourself today. Love on yourself a little bit as you step into your Friday.
Yes, Shannon, you have blessed me. I acknowledge you for your superpower. Your words are so impactful and so encouraging. I've gone from joy to tears in this conversation. And I commend you on not putting that writing, in the journal and in the drawer, right? That you shared that with the world, because right in this moment, you impacted me this morning, and I know you impacted so many others. I'm seeing people tagging up other friends. And please do, if you're listening to this, share this with somebody who it might impact most. Encouraging you to get that audiobook up and out, because I'm dying for it. So keep pushing on that side, and just have a blessed weekend. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. Make sure you go connect with Shannon, and join us on Monday. Have a blessed and safe weekend. Join us on Monday. And next week, we are having a conversation with a good friend, a past guest of the podcast, Chaz Scott, will be joining us. So, make sure you hit that follow, hit that subscribe. Make sure you're following me on LinkedIn and or on YouTube. And, let's definitely be back here on Monday at 8 a.m. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Thanks for spending time with us today. If we aren't yet connected, let's keep the conversation going on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, we grow when you subscribe, share, and invite others to check us out. We believe that others who consume these stories will be moved to make significant changes that have generational impact for many others, both now and well into the future. Please